I think the president's made it pretty clear where his ideas lie on the Clean Power Plan. Again, I see that as a purely political act, somehow organized around the campaign he ran in the Midwest, as we all know, the politics of all that brought that election his way. You got to congratulate them on their strategy, and so that in reality, it's sort of like the Clean Power Plan aligned, or opposition to it aligned with political strategy, which aligned with getting the president elected. So what does that really mean? It means it's not about the Clean Power Plan at all. It was about the politics of what's going on in the country. The Clean Power Plan itself could be sustained. Again, it's got a lot of support, and whether they can really undo it in the time frame they're talking about is a major question. They're talking about hiring outside counsel to try to help them do it, knowing that the people who built it probably won't undo it quickly. Some strange goings on at EPA, let me tell you. So that's the fact. The other fact that you probably all are aware of is the driver of the Clean Power Plan was in fact Jean McCarthy, who was the head of the air program before she was the head of EPA, and she had a very talented sidekick named Janet McCabe, and hails from Massachusetts actually, but was out in Indiana at the time. But this dynamic duo kind of put this whole thing together based on the experience of the Regional Greenhouse Gas Initiative in New England. So that only speaks to what states can do working together. And when you look at the design of the Clean Power Plan, it's really about incentivizing states to work together. Western states, eastern states, and then Texas. It's just the way the grid works. You can't change that, right? So the idea was, just like here in the Northeast, the Midwestern states could work together to reduce their carbon emissions based on caps each one would have gotten. So Ohio could say to Minnesota, who might have a ton of wind, let's all get together and build a ton of wind in Minnesota just to offset our situation as we convert. So that's really the theme and the opportunity. States can go do this without the Clean Power Plan. In fact, there's some signs that states are thinking about doing it without the Clean Power Plan. Clean Power Plan sort of set a vision of how you might do it. And I mean, that's the hopeful point. If there are people like Timmons working in every state with talent that he has and his team has, you might see states organize themselves as buyers and traders of energy the way that's happened here under the Regional Greenhouse Gas Initiative. So that's the hopeful point, that the Clean Power Plan was really an architecture of a system that was built, it looked a lot like the system we built here and was built out west, as we know. So do you need the Clean Power Plan in the long run? Well, not if states go on and do it themselves and create these markets. It doesn't have to be driven by federal leadership. It makes it a little easier. Utilities would like it if it was a standard way of doing everything rather than each state and having the nuance. And by the way, that's going to be the big driver in the long run. Big industry does not like each state doing things their own way. Notwithstanding all that you hear in the rhetoric from our folks who talk about states' rights and all that rhetoric, really, business doesn't like that. They like to have the standard across the whole thing. If you want to see that, you should have seen the discussion during the whole TSCA debate, and why big business came in and said, we want a national toxics law that's stronger than the one we had, because they didn't like the idea that each state was making up its own rules. So that's the other opportunity I see, is eventually the more rational, less politically motivated dynamic takes hold, and I call it the genius of the Clean Power Plan, based on Jim McCarthy, Jim McCabe, and all the work that went into it, starts to emerge again. And people say, yeah, this was a pretty good idea. Or, as Senator Whitehouse has made the point to me many times over, there's so many people who think the carbon price is a good idea, that eventually that just happens. So something's going to happen here. impact. So I'm fundamentally optimistic because it's the right and rational thing to do.
Thank you.